And also, a list of notes and things that, because this is more of a, this is me sharing, but also you guys sharing. So I'm going to compile everything that we kind of learned today and put it together in a Google document. So here is the sign up. All you need is your name, email, and which state you're from. And please do not steal this pen. This pen is very special to me. So, what an inspiring keynote, wasn't that? Oh my gosh, I go to about 15 conferences, all relating to technology. And I'd say that was one of the most inspirational and on-point keynotes I've heard from a variety of people. I mean, that guy, he is on the bleeding edge. And this is really exciting for me because this is something that I do, mobile technology, analytics. I also have my dear friend and lovely assistant, Lisa Sapio there, who is a professor at University of Western Florida, who's actually doing a research study on what I'm doing with data analytics in education when it relates to content. But that's not what this session's about. This is all about iPads. So, I'm not going to stand behind this thing because I hate this thing. I want to be out there on the floor with you. So, can everyone hear me fine? Not that big of a room, this is great. So, and let's go ahead and turn that music off. There we go. So, I'm here to talk about iPads in education. So, my name is Nai Wang. I'm founder and president of KP Education Systems, where I've been focusing on mobile learning and digital learning for the past, say 15 years of my life, which may seem like very odd to you because I look like I'm probably 20. But rest assured, I'm not. I left my email address up there if you wanted to write it down and email me directly. That way I'll get to contact you much faster. So there's a sign-up sheet for those of you who are just walking in. I'm going to be compiling the notes that we'll be getting today from all of you sharing about what you do with iPads in the classroom, along with the video that I'm recording right now of myself talking. So you can relive this moment over and over and over again. And just like how they show the graphics, see the engagement go, whoa, and then oh wait, there we go. So that is actually one really cool aspect of YouTube that I knew about, but I'm sure a lot of you who create YouTube videos don't know about those analytics. But anyway, let's move on. So there we go. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what you will and will not learn in this session, so we can dispel all preconceived notions. Learn how to fish. So my idea is to teach you techniques and skills so that you'll be able to go out and do it yourself. Just like the parable says, if I just give you a fish, you're just going to be doing that one solution and continue that solution over and over again without really expanding the horizon. But if I teach you how to fish or use the iPad properly, oops, then you will know how to do a lot of things. Really great. I'm here to improve your iPad food. So, just like Kung Fu, I want to get you to master this device. A lot of people use it just as a simple tool, but there's so much more depth. I'm going to take you from white belt to yellow belt, maybe to orange and maybe green belt. Maybe not black belt today, but that'll be fun to do. I want to help you increase your usage proficiency of these devices. A lot of people just use them for just simple email, web browsing, taking pictures, but there's so much more you can do with this. We'll not go through an endless list of apps. I know some of you might have gone to other sessions before about iPads in education, and they're just talking about app this, app that, app that, app that. Well, actually, all those wonderful resources that are out there, there's lots of great lists out there that pertain to your specific field. All you have to do is Google it, and then you'll find it. So right now, this training is really about getting you to become proficient. And I will not give you death by PowerPoint. So after these few slides are done, I'm going into a very interactive mode here. So, as we know, iPads are very great. Oops, actually, I'm going to do this one. So iPads are wonderful tools, and I want to show you this little video here about that some of you might have seen. About These tablets are magical. They do a lot of things, but there's still some sort of practical things that they cannot replace. I just love that little video there. It's humorous, but it really illustrates how like the tablet can replace a lot of things that we normally do in real life. All right, so I want to tell you a little bit about me so you can have a little context. I'm made in Taiwan. And I was exported here when I ripened at the age of 2 to the United States to become prosperous and live the American dream. But because there was a problem being made in Taiwan, it's because I was English as a second language, and I had to go through speech class, like 2 years of speech class in first and second grade. It was grueling, but I think they did a good job at it. I also had reading problems because of that. Because I couldn't read the novel, I couldn't read a book. I had problems digesting the information from a written book. I grew up in a Chinese restaurant because that's the level of where I grew up. I had very little access to I was on free and reduced lunch. My parents worked all the time. I lived in the restaurant, worked there until I got about this high, which is this tall, and they spent my entire time in there. So that made it a very difficult life for me in that. And also on top of that, I had another problem called ADHD. Now, for a lot of you probably experience this with a lot of your students out there. They're like distracted. They're kind of like going everywhere, a million miles per hour, and you're trying to corral them. So that's me back then. And but the great thing about that, being poor, growing up in a Chinese restaurant, is that my parents couldn't take me to a psychiatrist to put me on medicine. So I had to learn to cope with it. I had to take this disadvantage and turn it into my advantage. So because of that, my greatest weakness turned it into my greatest asset. And I'm only bringing this up because we're trying to fight this problem, but it really isn't a problem. It's just a power that we need to harness. We need to figure out how to take that distracted nature and turn it into something greater. And a lot of this ties into the tablet, because the tablet allows us to express ourselves in so many more ways than just a single path that we're usually used to. And then, because of that, I love video games. Video games help me hold my attention. Playing Mario, playing Sonic, playing all those video games. You know, those engagement, like, you know, we're talking about gamification. Gamification is so huge because there's such a deep underlying psychology behind why games are so good. Why we're driven to get those achievements. Why we have to level up. I'm addicted to video games. That's why I don't start video games, because I know my own nature. And a lot of these kids are addicted, and we're trying to turn this education system into another addiction. Because we can bring those keys into it. And these tablets can allow us to be able to do that. So because of that, I basically got into computers, taught myself programming because the school's so boring. And then where I am today, where basically I'm the expert in digital learning. Because I took that energy, I harnessed it, and I wanted to develop something that really reached out to me and my type. Because no one else was doing it. Well, now I'm not doing it. But at the time, no one else was really doing it because we were problem kids. We were the ones that got shuffled into the cooking classes or whatever, shop class, into like industrial arts. and I love this class. Pottery was fun. But you know, I didn't do well at the other things. So, does anyone here still need to be convinced that tablets are useful in education? I asked this question for the past 5 years about presenting this. Yeah, I started presenting on iPads right when it came out. And at the beginning, it was like most of the hands up. So anybody still need to be convinced? I need to be convinced that these tablets that they're issuing to every single student can maximize learning. That's why I still need to be convinced. Everyone's got it now. What the heck are we going to do with it? All right, so who of you brought your iPads here? All right, so we got half the room. Those of you who haven't, you can still absorb a lot of things. I'm going to be taking you through some practice things you can do with your iPad during. It's only a small portion, but you'll get some really great knowledge and experience with this. So you don't have to have your iPads, but it definitely helps. All right, so anybody who personally own it, not something that the school gave to you or issued to you. Oh wow, that's a lot of you. Great. So a lot at the beginning, it was just given by the school. All right, any other tablets represented here? 1, 2, 3. Well, so they're Surface or Android? Yeah, Surface? Android. Okay, so this session is very tailored to the iPad, but you can also take a lot of these cues to those other tablets. The only reason I don't talk about those is still pretty experimental, and the Android platform isn't as well supported in the education system. Now Chromebooks are, Surface is starting to get more acceptance, which is good, because they are really great tablets, but they still have their inherent problems because they have this thing called Microsoft, which you know, we kind of laugh at, but they try to do things as slick as. Anybody here who has the first generation or second generation iPad? Okay, so first gen. Okay, a lot of this, you know, a lot of these things like first gen iPads won't have. I'm going to be demonstrating everything here on iOS 7. So first gen iPads, second gen iPads are stuck at 6, I believe. So, but there's still a lot of things that cross over. Anybody here on 8 yet? Anybody here on 8? Okay, so a few of you that updated 8. Yeah, 8's actually very similar to 7, so there really isn't much changes to that. Okay, so I just want to know who's here. Any middle school teachers? All right, a few of you. High school. All right, great. And then college plus secondary. All right, we got a really good mix in this classroom. You might get some additional knowledge, but I'm going to really start on the low. I've done this session at various conferences all over the country throughout the years, and I realized that I always go over everyone's head. So I'm going to start at the bottom base head level and then bring you up. Level 1, obvious uses. We're going to briefly talk about the obvious uses that everyone should know, and some of you actually don't, which I'm surprised. I'm not surprised because I take things for granted that a lot of people don't realize. The app, which is basically talking about a few apps that are very useful, that are called multitaskers. That can be used for a variety of applications. And here, we have a creator. So that's about where I'll probably stop at the creator level. So basically that's just saying that, like, you know, you're using these apps and you're multitasking between them. You're creating a new environment that you're taking your students through. It's really cool if you can get to that. And then we have the imaginative, where you're reimagining. Then we have the unexpected, and then the savvy. Oh, and now level 7. Ludicrous level. Or as we call it, ludicrous speed. Anybody here watch baseball? No, really, one person. I'm surprised. It's such a classic movie. Okay, so just out of curiosity, what level are you? Anybody stuck at level 0? Hopefully not. All right, so level 1, the obvious. You're just using the most basic functions: web browsing, email, taking pictures, and things like that. So a few of you. Don't be ashamed. I mean, a lot of us are there. All right. So who are here are, like, you know, app users. You're using a lot of apps to do various things. Okay, so you got a few of you there. All right. And then the creative, like you're taking these apps and you're recreating new environments for your students. Okay. A few of you. So okay, cool. We got some good power users here. And then 4+ power users. Anybody consider themselves a power user? No. Oh, 1. All right, challenge you. Actually, you'll be sharing. Because I want you guys to share your experiences with other people. And I have to tell everyone what I do, which I kind of mentioned in the beginning. I have to mention that I'm not an Apple rep. A lot of people think I am because I talk about this, but it's because I love these things. I fall in love with these devices, Apple, iPhones, and I even carry one of these things too, an Android phone. But yeah, I'm not an Apple rep. I don't even own the stock. I wish I did. I've actually developed what's called a content learning management system, which ties into a lot of what he's talking about in the keynote, which is analyzing data, analytics, student interaction, engagement, and building an artificial intelligence or digital tutor to actually engage the students through mastery, blah, blah, blah. So that's where my base level expertise. Everything's in the cloud, no apps, actually. So even though I talk about apps, I believe in cloud-based education, which basically means that I can pick this up, I can pick that up, I can pick that up, I can pick that up, and I can engage where I left off, no matter what device I use. So focuses on mastery learning, project-based learning. Started out in the culinary arts education field, so that's how I got into the pathways, which is actually really, really quintessential for what I do, because I didn't start in core education, such as like science or math. I started in the trades and building technology for trades education or vocational education or pathway. So that's why this works out really well. I'll talk a little bit about this because this kind of illustrates what we're facing. Right, so we talked about video games this morning, and I bring the slide up because this is how I see education that we're facing right now. Over there on the left, or yeah, your left, right, is cartoon characters. You watch these cartoons as a kid on a television set. So these cartoon characters are doing entertaining things, keeping you engaged, telling a story, occupying your time and attention, making you laugh, making you cry. So you become attached to these cartoon characters, right? Anybody here attached to Mickey Mouse? Oh, Smurf? No, maybe not. Smurf, right? So, maybe some SpongeBob? Okay. Felix the cat. Okay. But the key with this illustration is that you were taken to a room, sat in front of TV, and you're sitting there staring at the boob tube. You're looking at it, you're passively absorbing that information. So translate that to the education then and kind of now, is that you're sitting there and you've been trained to absorb the information passively in that type of environment. Then now we have this. Video games. Mario. Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid. Link from Legend of Zelda. And we got Sonic the Hedgehog. So now, if you say Mario to a kid, their eyes light up. They go, wow, love Mario. I love Mario. Anybody here Mario? All right. So because of that, all right. So the difference is we're being entertained by these iconic characters. We identify them, but the difference is instead of passively watching what they're doing, we're controlling their lives. We're actively engaged in what they do. We make decisions on whether you take Mario and jump him down into a pit and die, or you take Mario, you jump on a Koopa Troopa, run to the end of the level, kill Bowser, save Princess Peach, and then you win the level. So because of that, when kids come to the classroom, they're not expecting that. They're expecting this. They want to control the environment. They want to be able to do what they want to do, to be able to make it through the level at their own pace, at their own time, because this is how we're training kids now, to be engaged that way. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So, with that, let's go ahead and pop this over to. So, with that, I want to show you this quick little video here that illustrates a really cool aspect of that. I like to mix things up in the video, so.
In the 1990s, Douglas Rushkoff coined the term screenagers to describe a generation that for the first time ever was growing up to think that images on screens weren't just something to passively stare at, but instead were something to be manipulated. Well, today, it's even more extreme. The tools and connectivity provided by the web allow us to think of images on screens not just as things to manipulate, but as things to project our own identities onto. Not everyone who does this is a professional storyteller or acclaimed poet. often choreographed by another person. But today's generation embarks on such adventures millions of times a day. Reading is not an active participatory process, it's a submissive one. The book readers of the younger generation are learning to follow the plot instead of learning to lead. Interesting. But you might be thinking, come on.
All right. So this is from a YouTube video person called Vsauce. Anybody watch Vsauce videos? It's really awesome. A lot of his stuff deals with very quick little basic education anecdotes. And this one I did pretty late up, but what really speaks to the whole entire nature of how we're really engaging kids and we're trying to cram them into different systems that they're used to. So with that being said, that is my Death by PowerPoint section. So now let's talk about level 0. Any questions so far?
Kind of basic question. How are you projecting or connecting the iPad to what we see?
I will be going over that exactly in, well, now, I guess. All right, so this illustration is this tool. I want you to think of it as your Swiss Army knife of endless possibilities. You got things to do this, you got things to do that. You could do a million things. A lot of you just use it as pliers or as a knife. But I want to take you to the next level. Also, I want to talk about this model. Anyone here adopt the Sandler model of technology adoption in the classroom? A few of you. Okay, it's a great model because what we're doing is this just illustrates that for a lot of us, we're just doing substitution with technology, which is a great start. But really, we want to get to modification and redefinition. So, if you want to take a picture of this, but you can find this model online. But it's called Sandler. Substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. Those are the 4 levels of how you'll evolve through using technology. Okay. All right. So let's talk about how I'm connecting. All right. So I am connecting my iPad through untethered, wirelessly through this device here called the Apple TV. And what the Apple TV is this little box here that you can see that's connected to the projector. So this box is a $100 device that's used for entertainment. So you can watch Netflix on it, you can listen to music, but the other side added benefit is that you could use it to wirelessly connect your iPad to it and walk around and go untethered, like such. And because of that, you can walk around the classroom, monitor your students, say, hey, what are you doing over here? Oh, look at that. Notes. We're pretty studious. And things like that. And so it's an Apple TV, and it sells for $100. So it's really not that expensive an appliance. It's connected through HDMI. So a lot of you in schools don't have HDMI. HDMI is the newer way to connect video to projectors or big flat screen monitors. So if you have a large flat screen TV, then you'll have that connection. But if you have a projector, you're probably using something from 2006 or something like that, where they don't have this connection, or even as late as 2012 actually, for the most part. You have to buy an adapter. So to do that, you need to purchase an HDMI to VGA converter. This is one I use if I can't directly connect to the projector. So $60, which isn't too bad. So basically the whole package between the two is $160 to be able to connect this to a projector and then have it connect. The last component is you need a network. So obviously in school you already have a network set up. So that's good. I brought my own personal network, which is sitting there on that desk right there. So basically what's going on is I'm beaming this to that, and it's going to this, and then up to the screen. So that's how I'm doing it. Very easy to set up. An IT person, for the most part, just needs to plug it in, and actually it's just ready to go once you plug it in, if you're on the same network. Okay, great question. So now since we jumped ahead, let's go back to this slide here. All right. So when I talk about level 0, I talk about the practical. So a lot of people, wonder how do you carry your iPad? Well, a lot of you put it in purses, like that. You don't have to buy an expensive iPad bags. I like to show off mine because I travel with my iPad all the time. This is my iPad, or what we call European messenger bag.
Your MERS?
Yeah, that too. So the thing is, like, since I have it here, actually, I can whip out my iPad because I like using my iPad more than my smartphone to get really quickly here. So because you have it readily accessed, you use it more, which is what you want to do. Like, you remember how when you were carrying your laptop around, and how often do you want to whip out that brick? No, never. So now with the iPad or smartphone, you can just go, hey, here you go. And it's it. You go, hey, there you go. Oh, no! I hate it when that happens. Unfortunately, it's a broken iPad. Or actually, a fake iPad. Okay. Kidding aside, having it rarely available is very important, and I like to throw that in there because I do. So you can use basically anything that you could put your iPad, but keep it available so you can pull it out and use it. iPad stands are also a big issue for me. Like, a lot of people spend like all this money on stands and setups and things like that. I actually have a very simple setup. This is my iPad stand right here. This, can anyone tell me what this is? Anybody? Please.
Is it a plate?
Plate stand.
Plate
Picture holder.
Plate holder.
Collapses, easy to travel with, adjustable to any angle. $2.99 Joanne Fabrics. Very cheap, but it's awesome because you don't have to have something complicated. This thing will hold an iPad, and it holds anything. But I did modify it a little. See, it's black on the bottom. I rubberized it using liquid tape because when I did it was slide around a little bit, so I just added a little liquid tape on the bottom, and now it can't slide when I have it on. So when I tap on it, it won't move. There we go. So stands are you can use virtually anything for a stand. For me, cheaper is better. We're always conscious about budgets. We don't need to buy that $30 stand with like all these different things that pull out and angles and things like that. It works horizontally, it works vertically. It works like laying down more. On the plane, it's great. So that's the stand. Now, a lot of you have these keyboards that are attached to your tablets. I don't like that because the way I see it, these tablets are great without a keyboard. 90% of the time. 90% of the time, you don't need it. So why tether something that you're only going to use 10% of the time to your already slim device? That's my own personal philosophy about that. So I use this, which is I travel with this, and I whip this out when I need it because it's thin, it's light, it compacts really well. So I like to go untethered. Or for those of you with the cases, you can just pull it apart as well. So the key is is try to go without a keyboard as much as possible. Practice on the keyboard. I can type about 80 words per minute on the keyboard here because not that I practice on it. I'm a good keyboardist, if that's a word. I'm good at keyboarding, but so what Apple does is they actually predict what you're trying to type based on what you're hitting. So a lot of times if I don't look at it, I get it mostly right. Sometimes I have to go back. All right, so the next accessory for level 0 is camera protection kit. Now, if there are any of you who still use these archaic devices called a point-and-shoot camera, you have the challenge of getting the images onto these devices. So you pick up one of these things, which allows you to put the memory card. Who still uses one of these? Okay, and you're good, but the cameras on these phones are just becoming phenomenal. I travel a lot with this. I used this a lot 3 years ago. Not much anymore. I still travel with it out of force of habit. Well, it has a better flash. So here's the camera protection kit. So this allows you to connect your memory card to it and then upload the images right into your iPad. And then the last accessory besides this one, because I was saving that for last, but somebody jumped ahead, is the connection kit. Now, if you don't have the ability to do wireless, and I always travel with this, is basically you connect this through the VGA or the HDMI, and these little cables cost $60, I think. I don't know. But that's the other way, is to go tethered rather than wireless. Especially if you're going to the conference and you don't have a wireless setup, then that's what you have to do. So here's another view of that. There, and then APD Pro. Okay, so that's level 0. Well, so I always ask every year, what do you think about level 0? Is it still useful? Is it good?
Yeah.
Yeah? All right, good. Anybody thumbs down? Okay, if you you did, you probably won't tell me. Okay, so let's talk about the level 1, which is the obvious. Now, we all know how to use mail. We all know how to use the web browser. So I'm going to teach you a few really cool tricks and techniques that make it so that you can use these iPads a lot more. All right, so I'm going to open up Notepad. Okay, so I just opened up Notepad. Now, if you wanted to if you wanted to close this, you would hit the home button, right? All right, so that's what you normally do. Well, the other thing you can do is you could take your hand and close it. Okay. Then that would work. Now, if it doesn't work, you might have to turn it on in settings. So in settings, if you go to General, you have this thing called multitasking gestures. You don't have to turn it on, turn it on. Because what it allows you to do is you could close it out, so you don't have to use the home button. Now here's the other cool thing. Let's go back to the Notepad. I swipe to the right. There we go. I swipe to the right again. Oops, it just changed a little bit because I went to a photo. And then here I am on the camera app, so I'm launching that now. There we go. Camera app. So it's just a really quick way to be able to move between apps quickly and seamlessly and impress your students at the same time. You go, yeah, here, let's look at this. Okay, let's look at that now. Let's switch to the camera app again, and then let's switch back to this, and then let's switch back to that, and so on. And let's close it out. Okay, so that's a really useful function. You can also do the same thing, like you know how when you press on double tap the home button, and it pulls up your dock, which lets you scroll through all the different apps you were using. You can do the same thing by taking the 4 fingers and swiping up. Now, for those of you who are using iOS 6, this doesn't come up. The little bar comes up at the bottom, which allows you to see what you recently used. Now, I want to get rid of a misnomer that a lot of people think makes a difference, and it doesn't make a difference, or it makes a difference actually. Is that you think that okay, I'm done using this app. Let me swipe up. Let me swipe up and toss it away. Okay. So a lot of people think that's saving memory or processes or battery life. Doesn't do that at all. It's just taking it out of the task. Apple has a really great memory management and power management feature where if you don't have it active, it doesn't really use up a lot of power. Now there's a few exceptions, but for the most part, you don't have to do that. I see a lot of people going, close it out, close it out, close it out. Like it's tedious, and you don't have to do that. So that's a little tip on that.
And you go into settings
To turn it on, yeah. So let me just show you where it is. All right, so I'm lagging a little bit. So okay, there we go. Now, because I'm using a personal hotspot, my connection to this isn't as spot on as if I were using a connection with a better infrastructure. So you go to General. Okay. I'll kill myself there. And then you go to multitasking gestures.
Thank you.
Now, the other really annoying thing that I find about these devices is they come default to do this. So you know this little switch here, and when you switch it, what does it happen? It turns on mute, right? So how many times do you need to quickly mute your iPad because somebody's calling you or something like that? Or maybe like your Angry Birds are calling you because you have to play with Angry Birds or whatnot. Well, it doesn't happen very often. So what I find more useful is if you switch this from mute to this. So instead of that's locked, that's unlocked. So this option beneath multitasking gestures, it defaults to mute. Change it to lock rotation. It makes it so much better because then when you're talking, you're like waving your hands around all crazy and your screen's rotating. This prevents it from doing that. And I like to wave my hands around a lot and toss iPads apparently. So that's a really good thing that I want you to change because it'll make your life a lot better. Now everyone knows to swipe up to get to your control panel, right? This is iOS 7, right? Or 8. So this allows you to do things. So this is where I have the option to connect to my Apple TV, which then I selected screen mirroring. So if you have your Apple TV device, this will automatically show up if you're on the same network. So that means that if anybody else is on that network, you'll see that option because because it detects it automatically. So when your IT person hooks up that device, you turn it on, like, oh, there it is. Now the downside is anybody can have access to it. So if a student were to say, hey, I'm going to take over your screen, they can, but I don't see them doing that. And mirroring allows me to just basically show you what I'm seeing. So you have to turn that on. Otherwise, it's just connected and you can use it to play YouTube videos here. Now, okay, swiping down gets you to the notification bar, which everyone should know. Because but one of the things that I realized that people didn't know is like this. How to move apps around. So somebody actually asked me that, so I have to demonstrate it. You can move apps around by putting it into wiggle mode. I know it's stupid, it's basic, but people have asked me about that. So by doing that, you can actually move apps to different pages, such as here on my games page, which I have a lot of games, as you can see, and then that allows you to do that. And I've also been asked, how do you create folders? Well, you create folders by taking the app and putting it on top of another app, and it creates a folder for you. Okay, you don't have to raise your hand if you did not know that. I don't want to embarrass you. But yeah, I mean, I told you it's basic, because I take these things for granted. A lot of people don't know how to do it, and if you don't know how to do it, then you're crippled in a way on how to use these things, on how to use this device. And you can move it around, and so on and so forth. So there we go. You cannot place a folder within a folder, so that's the only disadvantage. All right, so to get into mobile mode, just hold your finger down onto that any app, and then you'll get into that. This is also a good way to delete. So let's say you don't like yellow pages, I can hit that, and then the last one delete it as well.
How do you move it to a previous page?
You just have to drag it to the edge halfway, and it'll start to move.
And how do you get out of wiggle mode?
Just hit the home button. So I told you, basic, but it's important, right? Okay, other really cool, obvious things that I'm going to show you. Okay, so I'm going to open up a new notepad here. Let's go here. All right, so everyone knows that you can type in. Apple has a predictive thing that kind of figures out what you're typing, obviously. But does anyone know that they can do this? I want to tag a capital O. So I would hit the Shift key, and I would hit O. All right, cool. I got capital O. All right, now I want to do a capital O. There we go. I just did a capital O. The difference is I just did this. Swipe to the O. I activated the Shift button and moved right there. Great for question marks. Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, exclamation point. Anybody here knew how to do that?
Do that again.
Do that. Okay. Take my finger, swipe to the question mark. Boom. There you go. I created a question mark. Instead of hitting it normally, which gets a period. So the traditional way is to hit the Shift button and then hit the question mark. Or hold down the Shift key and hit the question mark. But now I can go Shift R, Shift S,
And it's where you stop.
Yeah, it's where you stop, and that'll take you right there. So that's how you can do like a quick way to do a capital letter. If you instead of taking two hits, you just go. I use it for question marks all the time because you just do that. If you hold your finger down on any key, you'll have an alternate version. So if you want to get to the apostrophe, you just do that, and then you've got the apostrophe. So if I want to do quotes, I can do that. If I want to do this symbol, Greek, anybody know Greek? That I can do that. So you can also hold your finger down on virtually the letter, and then not all letters have alternates, of course. Like so. As opposed to hitting the number button down here to get to the numbers and the alternate numbers. So you can get to a lot of these things just by holding your fingers down. Remember, basic, basic, basic. All these things that I take for granted, you all should know. All right, so another thing, which somebody actually brought up to me like last year, is they noticed that I have this little symbol here. Anybody here have a little like globe symbol in there? You know what that activates?
Emojis.
No, it activates my emojis.
Yes.
Yeah, I can do bunnies and hearts and lots of cool stuff. Okay, so most of you probably don't have that. Now to get to your emojis or other keyboards, all you have to do is go to settings, and then on the bottom, Oh, no, in the middle here, where we have this object called keyboard. Tap on it, you have here keyboards. Tap on it again, and you click on Add New Keyboard. Now this lets you add a whole myriad of keyboards. You can even write Chinese characters. You can write in Cherokee. So obviously emoji is gone, otherwise it would show up here since I already have it. So this is how you can turn on the various keyboards, and you have a lot to choose from. Pretty cool. So now you can send all those cutesy little smiley face heart icons to your heart's content. And this also works on your iPhone or any iOS device. It even works on iOS 6 for those of you who are on that as well. Actually, so far everything except for this mode is not on iOS 6. Everything I showed you works on iOS 6, including actually not including the Apple TV option. iPad Gen 1 does not work with that. Gen 2 does. Okay, pretty cool fun stuff with the keyboard, right? Yeah? All right. I know, this all seems so obvious to probably half of you here. Other really cool, obvious things that people should know about is, let's see, well, everyone knows to swipe down to get to your search. They changed that in iOS 7. iOS 6 was to the left. I'm sure you guys accidentally did that. Okay, so those are some quick tips for level 1. I call it level 1 because those are all things that everyone should know how to do. Everyone should know how to do those basic functions, be able to swipe between apps, be able to activate the keyboard, and do some really cool things. Now let's talk about a few apps that are important. Level 2. All right, level 2. All right, so this is a very important app to me because it's called Speed Test. Everywhere I go, and sometimes in the same place, depending on the time of day, I need to know what my internet bandwidth is. So I hit Speed Test, and this tells me what I can and cannot do. Everyone should have that app on any device. Apple, Android, anything. Because those will tell me basically how much bandwidth I have and what I can do. So at this speed, I can barely play videos from YouTube. So if I had a YouTube-heavy presentation, this would be a very bad sign, and I have to do something else. If it was higher, then great. You're looking for anywhere between 3 or higher to do video streaming. Less than that, you can just do basic web
So
search.
this is an app,
This is an app.
and what's the name of it?
Speed Test. Oh, you're searching on the App Store? Okay, so the speed test that you're looking for is by Ookla. O-O-K-L-A. It should be the #1 because it's also the most popular. Yeah, so very useful because when you're in your classroom, you're like, okay, how's the internet today? Terrible. Oh gosh, let me call up IT and see if they can do something about it. Or you're in your hotel room and you have wireless on you have wireless cellular. Let's say you did, and you had the hotel Wi-Fi. Like the hotel Wi-Fi here is terrible. I mean, I can barely do anything, so I don't use it. So, but it's enough to get by. So Ookla Speed Test. It's a very now you already saw me use the app called Camera. Now Camera, you can use it like what I did was kind of show stuff and use it like a document camera. So it's really great because if you have your device hooked up to your iPhone, you can say, hey, look at this. Hey, look at that. You can even use an iPod Touch, like something from like 3 years ago. You buy on eBay for like $20. You do the same thing. So basically, utilizing the camera app is a very useful tool. Other apps that are also very important that I really should bring up is Pages and Keynote. Now everyone uses Notepad, which is the free typing app. There's actually quite a few really good free typing apps, but Pages is basically Apple's version of Microsoft Word. And it's really done very well because they designed it for the tablet function. So because of that, but the thing is, it's $10, which doesn't sound like a whole lot actually. It's actually not. So it's really well worth it. And Keynote. Now, I don't really plug paid for apps, but these are things that are very useful. The only other one that I also plug is Goodreader, because what Goodreader does is it reads all formats of documents. So if you get something in the email and you don't know what app can open it, this app opens everything from Word to Excel to to PowerPoint, everything, you know. So this one I have the program book from that I downloaded. So it's a very powerful app. It's $3. It also lets me do something really cool, which is activate the Wi-Fi option. And what that does is it gives me an IP address, but then if you guys type in this address on the same network, then you can download the documents because I'm acting as a document server now. Pretty cool, but with cloud technology, it's not as necessary as it was before. So other apps that everyone should probably look into, Google Drive and Dropbox. So any Dropbox users here? Any Google Drive users here? Okay, so I see a few of you who double dip. I love Google Drive because it allows me to basically put anything in that drive. I get 15 gigabytes for free, and you can put videos, you can put PowerPoint, you can put Word documents. But before Google Drive came out, Dropbox had a really great following. And the only thing that's good about Dropbox is that it allows you to be able to share the folder and have students upload files to it very easily. Where Google Drive does the same thing, but you have to set permissions a little differently. But they all do the same thing. But I would say Google Drive is much better because you can actually edit the documents right in this app as well. Where Dropbox is just a file storage system in the cloud.
And also with Google Drive, they can create documents, spreadsheet, notepad, and
Yes. Yeah, so they can also use Google Drive or the Google Docs suite so that you could do collaborative documents or collaborative spreadsheets and presentations. Actually, collaborate on everything, which is all what we talk about. Collaboration. Okay, so actually this is a good time for some of you to chime in. Thanks for sharing. What else do you use that you find very useful that can cross over a lot of stuff? A lot of different.
Question.
Yes.
Do you know of a free app that allows you to flash?
Yeah, no, not really. And the only unfortunate thing about that is there's really no way to get around the use of Flash. The only way you can do it is by doing a screen mirroring application that kind of you connect to your computer, and then you're basically broadcasting your computer screen through the iPad, which actually sounds kind of redundant at that point because you might as well just hook up your computer to do that. Right? So there really isn't a way to play directly on the iPad.
Is there an app that does that though?
Yeah, there is. There's a few of them. One of the ones that was very popular changed their entire business model. So I can't really talk about them much anymore, but they were pretty free or pretty cheap. But now they have this client licensing thing that you have to pay for a number of computers. And it was called Reflector. You've heard about it, but they changed the name to something else. Oh wait, we're a 45-minute session, not an hour, right? Okay, well then, sorry. I'm used to an hour session, so my bad. I apologize for running over time, but thank you very much for staying. So this is just a quick suite of education apps that I like to talk about. Socrative allows the student response system for free. Explain everything. It's better than Education, which allows you to record what you do on the iPad and record it and save it to other devices. So there's a lot of really great apps, but the thing is, the best thing to do is I wanted to show you how to become proficient with your own iPad so you can search for apps and just Google it because all these things, people teachers talk about it. And when they talk about it, look into it and use it. I have ZipGrade, which allows you to grade Scantrons or something like that if you still do it. So thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. And if you wrote down your email address in the pad that's been circulating, I'll email you some additional information as well as the link to the video, which I'll be posting on YouTube. Thank you. Yes. I can search hashtag NCPN and see what I can post.
You too.
There we go.